Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every morning. The schus of our learning. We should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately.
Amen.
Refuah shleima for Yechiel Nassim ben Sarah and Davra Levi ben Menucha D'Lashter, Avram Rafal ben Sarah, Asher Anshel Levi ben Miriam Eder, Sarah Snuni. Okay. Today we're going to start Chaf Beis, Amud Beis on the bottom. 3 lines from the bottom. Al Chacham Chayletz Miyamin. If the Chacham passes away, so the community, the Chacham is the one that appoints other people. I think it means he appoints other people to be the sages. He's the great sage. So if he passes away, so the people remove the right shoulder, the jacket or the shirt off the right shoulder. They expose the right shoulder. Al Av Bezdin, if the Av Bezdin passes away, then Mismal, they take off the left shoulder. I don't know the reason for this. I'm sure this is something like commentaries would explain. Like this one represents the right, this one represents the left. I don't know. Maybe din or something. Kfura. Al Nasi, Mikan Mikan. For the Nasi, for the leader of the generation, that would mean in exile would be the Reish Hagayla, the Reish Galusa, or it would mean a king, or it would mean from the house of David in Eretz Yisrael, if that's the case. So you have to expose both shoulders. Taner Rabbanan was taught in a brayso, Chacham Shemes. What happens if the sage passes away? What happens in the town? How do they mourn? Well, the first thing is Beis Midrashi Batal. They closed the yeshiva. What was the Chacham? He would give a class every day. There's no class. So that would be the first thing that's obvious. There's no class. And Av Bezdin Shemes. What happens if the Av Bezdin passes away? So Kol Bati Midrashi should be Irabitelim. They close all the base medrash. Every yeshiva gets closed. And the people would come to shul to daven. However, but they don't sit in their regular place. Everyone is like a guest. They all go to the different places. Hayeshim Batzafin, Yeshim Badarim. Those that sat in the north sat in the south. Hayeshim Badarim, Yeshim Batzafin. Those that sat in the south sit in the north. I was a little surprised. It didn't say that those that sit on the east sit on the west. Maybe it just means maybe that part they don't switch. I don't know, or maybe in whatever location this was being said, that wasn't the east side, wasn't the front. Oh, so 1 second. Regarding tefillin, it would only be for the actual parent or close relative that they wouldn't wear tefillin. It wouldn't be for just the honorable people. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah, they wore tefillin on their left arm. Yeah, but I don't know if that would just be associated with this. Okay. Nasi shemes. What happens if the nasi passes away? Sabati midrashas kulam betelim. All the yeshivas close. Bnei knesses nichnasen lebeis knesses, and only those people that belong to the shul go to the shul. Not everyone. It's interesting. Interesting. I don't know how that gets divided up. The Kairin Shiva v'Yitzim. Even in shul, they don't daven. They would daven at home. They would daven in their privately. There was no minyan. The only thing is they would read from the Torah, because on Shabbos it's read from the Torah, possibly Monday, Thursday as well. It doesn't mention that. It only says Kairin Shiva. It sounds like it's only Shabbos. They would come on Shabbos and they would read from the Torah, but the davening they would all do on their own. It was like everything was out of the ordinary. Everything is off. Okay. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, this possibly is a son of Rabbi Akiva, according to some. He says, when you say that you close the yeshivas and this, it's not that everyone's going on touring and stuff and going around. They're actually staying home and they're just sitting there in silence. Yeah. Then it says that you don't say halachas in the house of an avel. You don't study Torah, so you don't say halachas. Yeah. There's a big discussion about this in halacha. It's not so simple. But because we say mishnayos. We do say that would be like a clear problem. And I think the way they explain it is, that means you don't do your own private learning. Oh, I happen to be learning this. Let's continue where we're up to. That you don't do. But in anything that's in the merit of because you don't pursue your personal studies, but anything that's in the merit of the deceased, of the neshama, that you are allowed to do. So the Mishnah specifically is in the merit. That's probably the explanation. I don't know. Amru alav al Rab Chananya ben Gamliel shayayim shmuav hagad beis avel. Rab Chananya ben Gamliel would. Okay, maybe we're relying on him. That could also be a pshat, because we say that any lenient opinion in Avelis we follow. That could be the teretz also. Okay, Taner Rabbanan. It's taught in the Brisa that Avel Shabbos Rishona in a Yotzei Pesach Beisai. The first week, I don't know if it means week or it means Mamash Shabbos. He stays home. Shabbos could mean Shabbos and it could mean week. It's I don't know. So, but he stays home. Shniya, the second week, Yotzei Ve'eni Yoshev B'im Kaimai. Now the Bach adds in that Ve'ina Midaber. The second week he does go out, but he doesn't sit in his regular place, and he doesn't speak either. Doesn't go and have these conversations. Shlishis, the third week after the funeral, Yoshev B'imkaimi, then he can already sit in his regular place. Ve'ina Midaber. And he doesn't speak. And Reviya Sariyah Kachal Adam. The fourth week, he's like everyone else, talking during davening. No, that's not what it means. It means being greeted and all of that. Okay. It was in the Yekish Shul by Kabbalah Shabbos. The Avel doesn't come for Kabbalah Shabbos. He comes in by Baruch Hu. And it's sort of like a procession, like the door opens and everyone like sort of turns and he walks in and he sits somewhere. I think he sat in a different seat or something. Anyway.
Question.
Yeah.
So you have a Bach over here.
Yeah.
You just read it as if it's in the Gemara.
Yeah.
That's what you're reading.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just want to know that. You read it and you assume it's in the Gemara.
Yeah. Usually we accept the Bach, but it's fun to see like what the Bach is doing. How it would be without and what it is with. And, sometimes there's huge differences in halacha. I'm not sure if the Bach had manuscripts or the Bach had just had obvious logic to adjust it.
Well, it's a very logical explanation because otherwise the fourth
Right.
next week would be stricter.
Right. Yeah, that's what's happening. It's getting less strict. Every week it gets less strict. Rabbi Yehuda
Chabad doesn't have the thing that it walks in a procession. What happens when
I don't know. I've never seen it, or it's not as organized, at least. That
here?
Yeah.
Because the other Rabbi Shapiro shul, they always do that.
Oh yeah.
And it's a full Friday night shul. It stops, doors open.
Yeah.
And he's hanging out outside. He can't go in before that for the singing.
Right.
And then he walks in. It's very grounding.
Right. Does the Avel go to his regular seat?
Oh, I never watched that part.
Yeah. Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda is going to add a week to this whole process. The first opinion here made the whole thing 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, he's back to normal. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. The first week, he's anyways not going out because everyone's coming to him. He doesn't go out. Ela Shnia, that brisa, this statement that we have from the sages that he doesn't go out, that's the second week. In the Yitzim Pesach Beisai. Shlishis, the third week, is Yaitse Ve'ena Yeshiv B'm Kaimai. He goes out and he doesn't sit in his place. And he also doesn't speak. Revi'as Yeshiv B'm Kaimai Ve'ena Medaber, in the fourth week. He goes to his place, but he still doesn't speak. And Chamishis, it's the fifth week, so it takes 5 weeks to get back to normal. Tana Rabbanan. Started in a brisa. Kol shleishim yaim l'nesuin. Can't get married for 30 days. Yeah. An Avel can't get married for 30 days. He's not allowed to cut his hair. He's also not allowed to get married. There's a whole discussion in other sources. Maybe it's later here. What happens if the wedding was prepared? You know, they already slaughtered the buffalo, the whatever, so the meat, the ox, and the meat's gonna go bad. You can't just delay the wedding, you know. So yeah, that's a whole discussion. So the wedding, you can't arrange a wedding for 30 days. Mesa Ishtay. What happens if a person's wife passes away? Also, Lisa Isha Cheres had Shiabro Olav Shleisha Regalim. Can't get married until 3 holidays passes by. We mentioned this before. We were discussing a woman shouldn't get remarried for 3 months. And if she's nursing, it shouldn't be for 2 years. But here, this is a man. His wife passed away. He should not get married for 3 holidays. So
I just shared this morning. Mentioned that somebody came to the Psalm for shoes to get married after 2 ago. He said yes, because the man was a Talmud Chacham who came to him for aces, and even though he had a daughter to take care of him, she didn't know how to greet the important people who came to him. And he was going to marry the widow of a Talmud Chacham who did this, so he said it was Pashut.
okay. What's the reason for this, though? For not getting married for 3 regalim? So Taisva says he should remember.
I think there are two theories.
Yeah, that could be. The first one is he should remember his love for his wife. And I guess the holidays would be the time to remember that. You shouldn't just forget it right away.
The other is that he shouldn't remember.
The other one is he shouldn't.
The
The second is very good. Second, Taisa says another reason that he shouldn't get remarried right away is because he should not remember his first wife, because when he's going to have relations with his new wife, he's going to be thinking about his first wife, which that's a problem. You're not supposed to think about anyone else during relations. His thoughts should only be on his wife. So he should delay getting married for three months. There's actually a third reason here. The third reason Taisa says is that he should not tease his wife, his new wife, saying, "Oh, my old wife did this, my old wife did that." If it's too close, he's all going to keep mentioning, and it's gonna bother the new wife. So we wait 3 holidays.
Then it won't bother them.
Then instead of saying that my old wife used to do this, he's going to say, "Oh, without you, I didn't have anything." Okay. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Regel Rishon v'Sheni Aser." That's right. The schus of learning this should protect us from.
Oh, for divorce, these rules don't apply. You have to wait 3 rebellion if you got divorced.
That's interesting, because for the second reason, it should apply for divorce. You shouldn't be thinking about the second reason. That's an interesting point.
Either that or the reverse. Oh, my first wife did this. It was terrible, and you're so wonderful.
But I'll tell you that it wouldn't apply because a man can have two wives anyway. So that concern isn't a real concern, of course. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Regel Rishon V'Sheni Aser Shlishi Mutter. Rabbi Yehuda says that no, you do have the third holiday is permissible already to be remarried. So you're asking, so what was the Chiddush of the Chassam Sofer? Because Tosfos over here says that even though we say that the halacha by Avelis is always like the more lenient one, and Rabbi Yehuda is the more lenient one, because this is not Hilchas Avelis. Avelis is already over after the Shleishim. This is already some other halacha. We don't have the rule over here. So you would need that Chiddush. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm just saying it's more than just the... Okay. The main Leibanim. What happens if he didn't have children? Then Mutter Lisa La'alter. He's allowed to get married right away. We saw previously in a Tosfos that La'alter may not mean during the Shiva. La'alter would mean either after the Shiva, and La'alter could also mean after the Shleishim. What it means is that he doesn't have to wait 3 months. It's not. There's stages here to what it could mean. It's machlekes before Rabbeinu Tam and the. Why is he allowed to get married right away? Mishum bittul peri v'rivi. We don't want to delay him from having children. If he never had children, he has to fulfill the mitzvah of having children. So he's allowed to get married. Hinicha leibanim ketanim. Let's say he does have children, very small children, that they need someone to help take care of them. So Mutalisa La'alter Pnei Panasas, and he's allowed to get married right away to provide them with food. Yeah. Maisa, we have a story. Shemesa Ishtei Shel Yosef HaKayan. The wife of Yosef HaKayan, I don't know anything about him. The wife of Yosef HaKayan passed away. At the funeral, he tells to his sister-in-law, his wife's sister, come and support your nieces and nephews. It means basically, marry me, is what he said. At the funeral, tells us, nevertheless, although that was a proposal, but he didn't actually live with her until a long time. What's a long time? Until she grew up. No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say she was a kid. She's someone that's capable of raising the children. Mila Zman Meruba. What does it mean, Zman Meruba? Marav Papalach Shleishim Yom, he waited 30 days until he lived with her. That's considered Zman Meruba. Interesting expression. Okay, Taner Rabbanan. I'm sorry?
Why would he propose at the funeral, though? That seems a little inappropriate.
Yeah.
If it wasn't able to happen then anyway.
Yeah. I think what the pshat is that it was more than proposing. I think he actually made the wedding and she moves in, but he just didn't consummate the marriage. They made the wedding and they were ready. Yichud they had already, but to consummate the marriage, right, that they waited for 30 days. That's probably what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you're right about, I think that's what the Gemara actually wants to say, that even though it could be viewed as something that's not so appropriate, but nevertheless, it's acceptable. Yeah.
They have a modern movie about that.
What is that?
They have a modern movie that came out about that, a film movie called
really?
Fill the Void. Yeah.
That's the name of it? Fill the Void?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Do you recommend it?
Yeah, excellent.
Okay, very nice.
Do we have to wait till Nittelnacht to live to see it?
Yeah, terrible this year. Nittelnacht was on Shabbos. We lost out. We have to postpone it. Okay. Taner Rabbanan Ishukach. Start in a brisa. Kol Shleishim Yaim. Yeah, where's Dr. Stein usually knows these things. Kol Shleishim Yaim. Every 30 days, Legihutz. Gihutz means freshly pressed clothing. You're not supposed to wear freshly pressed clothing for 30 days after the funeral. This applies to whether it's brand new garments. What do you want to say? No, I'm talking about a from movie that he was recommending. Oh, okay. No, that would be the nice jackets.
I don't get it. You talk about him and he merges.
Yeah. So, whether it's new or just pressed recently, machbish is a press. Rabbi Yomer la yasru ala kelim chadashim bilvad. Rabbi says no, it's not freshly pressed. It's only new that would be an issue. Rabbi Lazar bar Shimon, this is Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai's son, Amr la yasru ala kelim chadashim levanim bilvad. They only forbade new white clothing. Yeah, I like to think about like things in their life that like maybe what's making them say this. But the only thing I would know about Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon was that he would take off the clothes when he would sit in the sand. Remember in the cave, they would only put it on to daven. Yeah, I don't know a lot of other things about him. Okay, but he says that it was only new white clothing. That was the issue. Abaya nafek begardasa the sarbala. Yeah, we had this before once. I don't remember. How does the English translate? It's an old white garment. Now, it could have been pressed and it could have been fresh. But the reason why Abaya did this was because he holds Rebbe. He holds like Rebbe that the whole issue was just new. Rabba nafek bechimutzta rumaisa sumkata chadati. He went with the Roman red cloak. Yeah, they tell us chimutzta is a cloak, and rumaisa is Roman. Sumkasa is red. And it was new. How was he allowed to do this? It's new. He says, well, that's not a problem. Rabbi Elazar bar Shimon, he holds that only the whole issue was white. You can't wear white new clothing. Okay. Morning. They said that the holiday interrupts the morning time, but Shabbos doesn't. Shabbos not only doesn't interrupt, but it's even oila. It's even part of the 7 days. You don't say you have to count another day because Shabbos didn't count. We don't do that, right? It's 7 days, including Shabbos, even though Shabbos we didn't really have morning, right? So Bnei Yehuda, Bnei Galila. There's a discussion between the people that lived in Yehuda and the people that lived in the Galil, the north. Hani Amri, these said Yesh Avelis B'Shabbos, that there is Avelis B'Shabbos. But Hani Amri and these said ain't Avelis B'Shabbos. There's no Avelis on Shabbos.
Are we on Daf
We
Beis
just turned to Chaf Gimel Amid Beis in the town. Yeah, in yeshiva, I told my students that in the Russian army they would make them run, and they were very tired, and they would run, and they were tired, they would fall asleep, and they were running, and they were asleep. So the only way to tell who was awake and who was asleep was when they turned. So anyway, I would say that like right when we turn the page, because I have all the students and not all of them turn the page with me. So anyway. Yeah. Okay. Then they like, oh, I don't know.
They're true in your class.
Yeah, it's just a hint that we turn the page. Okay, so we have a discussion now of Yesh Avelis B'Shabbos. Is there mourning on Shabbos? Tosfos here mentions, or his commentary is that we're dealing with not real Avelis. We're dealing with only Avelis that's done in private. Like, so for example, one of the rules is that during the mourning period, it can't have marital relations. Does that apply on Shabbos? We know that externally you don't have mourning on Shabbos. But what about in private? Do they keep the private? You know, when he's home, is he supposed to remove his shoes? Those types of things. You know, outside he probably would wear shoes, but inside, what does he do in the house? So that's the discussion here. So Mandam Yesh Avelis B'Shabbos, the one that says that there is mourning on Shabbos, the Ktani Oila. You notice the words of the Mishnah says that it counts Shabbos, the days of Shabbos Shabbos is counted as one of the days. Manda Amar Ein Avelis b'Shabbos. The one that says that it's not on Shabbos, it just means it's 6 o'clock. It's an old grandfather clock. The one that says Ein Avelis b'Shabbos, Diktani Ein Mafsekas. Because he says there's no Avelis, because it says it doesn't interrupt. Isal Kedaitach Yesh Avelis b'Shabbos. Let's say there would be Avelis on Shabbos. Hashta Avelis Naga of Sukkimi. It says it doesn't interrupt. What does interrupt mean? It doesn't stop the morning. Yom Tov comes along, and the whole Avelis is over. Even though here they only sat for 2 days, 3 days. It's a discussion. Let's say they sat for 3 days, according to everyone. Then Yom Tov comes, it's over. Shabbos doesn't interrupt. Now, if you would tell me that there's Avelis on Shabbos, so you're telling me that it doesn't interrupt? You have Avelis. What do you mean it doesn't interrupt? It's not only doesn't it interrupt, but Avelis there would be no chiddush there. So it must be that Ein Avelis b'Shabbos. Really, Shabbos there is no morning, and it doesn't interrupt. There's a chiddush. There's no morning, but it doesn't stop it. After you continue afterwards. It's a logical statement. So then why does it say that it counts if there's no morning? See, according to this opinion, there is no morning on Shabbos. So what does it mean it counts? Well, the Gemara answers, it doesn't really mean that wasn't like, don't stress on that. By the Yom Tov, it says that it's Eina Oila.
So that's the difference.
And Shabbos it is. Right.
So maybe that was. And not only that, but it's still afterwards.
Shabbos. And so what he's saying is that on Shabbos there is Avelis. It says that it's Oila. No, then that would fit. No, this is according to the opinion that says Ein Avelis b'Shabbos, that there is no Avelis. So what does it mean it's Oila? What does it mean it counts? What it means is, oh, no, 1 second. What we said by the Oila, remember what daf was that? What daf was this on?
So the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov during the days of Oilus is that Yom Tov completely ends
Right.
the days of mourning. Shabbos.
That's the word mafsik. The word Oila means that if the person passed away on Yom Tov, so then Ein Oilin Lai, those first days don't count until the morning starts after Yom Tov, until the Avela starts after Yom Tov. Ein Oilin Lai, they don't count at all. It's not part of the 7. So Oilin over here would mean if someone passed away on Shabbos, it's Oila. Really? It does start. I don't know how if he's buried on Shabbos. It sounds like it would start. So, but that would mean that there's Avelis. You just told me that there's no Avelis. It says, yeah, it doesn't really mean that there is Avelis. It's just in contrast to on Yom Tov when it starts afterwards. If the burial was done on Shabbos, how the burial was done on Shabbos, I don't know. But maybe non-Jews were able to bury it or something. Okay.
We learned that before. Situations.
Yeah, there were situations where it was done like that. Right. Yeah, where was this again?
We
learned about on Shabbos, in Masechta Shabbos with David HaMelech. The body was there. It was in the sun. The dogs were gonna remember. They had to move it. They put a loaf of bread. They moved. Okay. Shabbos Eila. You see, the problem is that it's being translated differently. Shabbos Oila and Ein Oilen. At least the commentary translates in two different ways. Ein Oilen on Yom Tov means that the Avelis doesn't start, and on Shabbos Oilen means that the Avelis continues. Anyway, it's not consistent. Okay, and according to the other opinion, goes like this. According to the opinion that says there is mourning on Shabbos. But what about that great question? He said, so what do you mean to say it doesn't interrupt? Of course it doesn't interrupt. It doesn't interrupt because you have mourning. So it says, Mishum de Kabayla Misne Seifa Mafsikin, because by Yom Tov it says that it interrupts. It's just in contrast. I know it's obvious, but in contrast, we said that. Let us say that this discussion about Avelis B'Shabbos goes back much earlier, and it's actually a Machlekes Tanaim. Usually this is a question. So let's see. Misha Mesim Mutalafanov. If the deceased is laying there, the person should go to eat in a different house. He shouldn't eat in front of the corpse. If he doesn't have another house to go to, Bayasacher actually could mean another room. So he goes to his friend's house. Doesn't say Ein Chaver, but his friend doesn't have a house. He doesn't have access to that. So he puts up a partition 10 tvachim. Let's say he doesn't even have material to set up a mechitza. You know, what's a mechitza? A sheet with a string. You know, you hang it from wall to wall. He turns his face around and eats, but he can't recline. You should not eat reclining. It's probably just like snacking, you know, to take a bite of something. At this point, he's not allowed to eat meat. He's not allowed to drink wine. By the way, a novel is allowed to eat meat and drink wine. This is talking about before the funeral. He's not allowed to eat meat and drink wine. He doesn't say a bracha. It's a little bit unclear if that means bracha rishayna, but it could be that's what it means. He doesn't have to say a bracha rishayna. That's a possibility. Yeah, it's a whole discussion. If a bracha rishayna means that you're not stealing from Hashem, so what does it mean you're allowed to steal now? Eating without a bracha.
Oh, wow.
That's obviously, although he doesn't keep certain positive commands, he's not allowed to violate any negative commands. That's obvious. He doesn't join together with a group for a zimun. And they don't have him in mind either. And they don't join him in the group. Okay. He's exempt from davening, from Shema Esrei, and from putting on tefillin. And we call him mitzvah samur speter and all positive commands. Ub'Shabbos, what happens on Shabbos? Listen to this. This is what we were looking for. Is there avelis on Shabbos? How's he supposed to behave? Meisiv va'oichel. He reclines and he eats. Va'oichel basar. He eats meat. Sheisa yayin. He drinks wine. U'mevarich u'mezamen u'mevarchen u'mezamen and all of. They include him. Very clear. There's no avelis going on. V'chayev b'kriyah shema. He has to say Shema. B'tfilah, he has to say Shema Esrei. U'b'tfilin. It's to wear tefillin. Very good question. What's he doing with tefillin on Shabbos? So the Gilyon Hashas takes that out. Rabbi Kiva Eger takes that out. That's a problem. Yeah, he quotes another Gersa here from the Rif. It says Chayev b'kriyah shema b'tefillah. He takes it out. B'chol mitzvah samur speter, and he's chayev in all the other mitzvahs that are in the Torah. You see, sometimes things got because it's a common sequence of consecutive things that are listed. So sometimes when they did the list again, they put the whole list in. It's like a copy paste on a computer on a document, and they just put it in again because this is Pater, this is Chayiv. They put the whole list in, but Tefillin was left in the list, and Tefillin wouldn't be relevant. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the Quran.
Krishma.
Maybe the word is supposed to be tefillah.
Yeah, but it says tefillah already. It says tefillah also.
Yeah.
Yeah, where did we learn? We had a source before that he's exempt from reciting Shema. Did we say?
Assumption you can't have Kavana.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I don't remember, but we did have a source for it. He can't send his karbanos because he's not shalom. Okay, that I remember. I have to go back and look that up. Anyone remember? What's the source that is exempt from Shema? Especially if Shema is a deraisa. If it is, remember there was a Tosfos we had in maybe two places that Krishma is not really a deraisa. Surprising, but okay.
I saw, I think, with Shulchan Aruch that someone who's mourning doesn't necessarily need to say the Shema.
Right,
Or the Amida, I think. For
right,
first.
right. That would be based on this. Yeah, yeah. There's a Tosfos that holds that, but we don't hold that. We hold that Shema is deraisa. Rabbi Yechanan says. Okay, 1 second. I skipped Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel Eimer Miteichen is chayva beil and is chayva bekulam. If he's chayiv in these, then he's chayiv in everything. Now, turns out that the first opinion also said he's chayiv in everything. So Rabbi Yechanan comes along and says, Tashmish Amite Kabinayo. The difference between these two opinions was that the first opinion gave you a list.
Mm-hmm.
And the second opinion, Rabbi Gamliel, just says, no, it's everything. Because he's saying it's everything, that means that he's also permissible to have relations on Shabbos, even though he's in a state of mourning, because there is no mourning on Shabbos. And the first opinion says no. He's only everything external, everything that people can see, he doesn't do. But in private, is supposed to keep. My game. This must be the machlekes. The Marsav Yesh Avelis b'Shabbos. The first opinion holds that there is mourning on Shabbos. Marsav Rein Avelis b'Shabbos. Okay. The Gemara says, "Mimai." How do you know that that's the pshat? Dilma adkan like kamer tanakam asam elam mishum demesim mutalafanav. There was one factor in this that messes up this whole comparison. Over there, we were talking about that the funeral didn't take place yet, and there were all these laws that apply to when the body is still there. So aval hacha dein mesim mutalafanav lai. But once the funeral, maybe everyone holds that there's no avelis b'Shabbos. And the other way, why does Ram Gamliel allow him to do everything on Shabbos? Because the avelis didn't even start, because they didn't bury. Once it starts, that may be different. Maybe Ram Gamliel would agree that he can't have relations on Shabbos because the avelis started. Okay. We'll start the Gemara for tomorrow. Rabbi Yechanan asked the question from Shmuel. Yeah. Rabbi Yechanan asks Shmuel. Rabbi Yechanan, I don't think ever saw Shmuel. So he asked it by letter. That has to be. Because we have a Gemara in Chulin where Rabbi Yechanan wanted to go to visit Shmuel. This is by the Trefus. He wanted to ask him questions. And he went outside. He saw a young boy, and he said, "What pasuk did you learn today?" And the boy said, "I learned that Shmuel Mace." Now that's talking about Shmuel Hanavi. In Shmuel Aleph, it says Shmuel passed away. Yeah. So he says, "Oh, okay, forget it. I'm not going to go to Bavel." He took that as a sign that Shmuel, 1,000 years later, a different Shmuel, it must have passed away. So then the Gemara tells us over there that actually Shmuel was still alive, but the Eibishter didn't want to bother Rabbi Yechanan to have to travel. So he said that's the message that he got. But whatever the case is, Rabbi Yechanan didn't really ask it directly. He probably sent it as a letter or a message. Okay. Amalei, so Shmuel responded, Ein avelis b'Shabbos. Ein avelis b'Shabbos. Shmuel says there's no avelis on Shabbos. Yeah, Shmuel takes a lenient opinion in general on Avelis. Remember, he's the one that says he always paskin like the lenient view in Avelis. He also says there's no Avelis on Shabbos. It's consistent. Yasvi Rabbanan Kameder Rav Papa V'Kamri Mishmei the Shmuel Ovel Rav. The students are sitting in front of Rav Papa, and they said the name of Shmuel. Ovel Shashimish Mitasi B'Mei Avele Chayiv Misa. Very strong statement about a mourner that has relations. It's Chayiv Misa.
Wow.
Now, Amalei Rav Papa. It doesn't mean Chayiv Misa that he gets killed by the court. It means, spiritually, by heaven. Amalei Rav Papa, Asr
Is
Itmar,
that courage?
something like that, like Misa B'dei Shamayim or something. He said Asr Itmar. Shmuel never said that. It was only stated that it's prohibited. It's not talking about on Shabbos, obviously. Mishmei de Rabbi Yochanan Itmar, and actually wasn't even. Oh, it could be on Shabbos. It could be on Shabbos. And it wasn't even in the name of Shmuel, it was in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So we're talking about on Shabbos, because Rabbi Yochanan doesn't accept Shmuel's answer. Yeah. Yeah, Tosfos points that out also. If you did hear anything in the name of Shmuel, I'll tell you what it was. It has nothing to do with what you said. It was this is what you heard. Amrav Tachlifa Baravimi Amar Shmuel Avol Shlei Parav Shlei Pirim Chayev Misa. An oval that doesn't let his hair grow and it doesn't tear his clothes, he's Chayev Misa. That's a different story. Shenema Rashechem Al Tifro B'Gdeichem Leisefraim of Leisemusa V'Gaimer. Okay. What did it say over there? Over there it was talking about to the sons of Aaron, that it said that they should not tear their clothing, they should not let their hair grow, and they won't die. But someone else that's in a state of mourning, shalei parav shalei pirim, that doesn't do this, is chayiv misa. It's an interesting way of reading that. Yeah. Amar Rafam Bar Papa says, Tana be'evel Rabasi. It's taught in the brisa of the great brisa of Avelas. We call that Masechtas Smachos. It's there's Masechtas in the back of in the Vilna Shas, in back of Avodah Zarah. Over there, there's a bunch of small Masechtas Ktanas. Usually they're not. Usually it's attributed to the Goinim, that it was put together later. But apparently they had an Evel Rabasi earlier as well. Over there is Masechtas Kala and Masechtas Geirim and Masechtas Seifrim and Masechtas Smachis. Okay. So, Avel, over there it says, Avel Asal L'Shamash Mitasi B'Mei Avela. An Avel is not allowed to have relations during the mourning period. Ma'aseh Bechad Sheshimish Mitasi B'Mei Avela. There's a story of someone that did have relations during the mourning period. And the pigs schlepped his body. They pulled his body. Now, there's another pshat of it. Gviyasi may mean actually the male organ. It could be like a direct consequence. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Pachaz, that's a Rosh Tevis. Pechaz Zayin, Chayva. Those are an obligation on Shabbos. Doesn't say that here, but that's the pshat. Natar, that's a Rosh Tevis. That's Rishus. That's voluntary. Okay. What do these things stand for? So the Gemara elaborates on it. It spells it out. The Peicha Zayin that we said is an obligation, that's Priya Sarosh, that means uncovering the head. An Avel would go with his head wrapped up. On Shabbos, he has to uncover it. It's an obligation. Chazaras Kerala Acherav, to take the torn garment, to put it around so it's not noticeable, to turn it backwards, it shouldn't be noticeable. That's an obligation. In Zakifa Samita, and also turning the bed back upright, Chayva, that's an obligation. However, what's the one that's only voluntary? We're talking about on Shabbos. Nilas a sandal, wearing shoes. We're going to see that wearing shoes doesn't show, not wearing shoes doesn't show that the person is mourning. It's similar to what's going on today. Back then, today, after the Zoom thing, people don't get dressed the same way that they used to, at least in yeshiva. There's a lot of slippers. You have to keep telling them, sweatpants, it's like they're half pajamas. They got used to a year and a half of, so back then they had something similar to that, probably because the shoes were probably more expensive. So they didn't always wear shoes.
If you go to the airport, everyone's wearing pajamas. Everywhere.
Yeah. So not wearing shoes doesn't mean that the person is mourning. You walk around in the yeshiva. It doesn't mean that they're mourning, chas v'shalom. It means that that's how they're comfortable, Crocs, whatever. Tashma Shamita, if he doesn't have relations, it does not mean that he's mourning. It's not an obligation. It's voluntary. Okay. In Rechitzas Yadayim, V'raglayim B'chamen Arvis is also Rishus. To take a bath, which a mourner is not allowed to do, if he doesn't do it, it doesn't mean that he's mourning. That's like showing everyone that he's mourning. So it's voluntary. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about before Shabbos. If he doesn't bathe before Shabbos, no one really knows if he bathed or not. It's not a public expression of mourning. People, they can't tell really. Okay. Rav Amaraf Priyas Rishus. Rav adds in that Priyas Arosh, uncovering the head, is also Rishus, because there were people that would walk around with their head covered anyway. Shmuel says, according to Shmuel, Mashna Nilas Sandal Rishus. Priyas Arosh says can't be Rishus. Nilas Sandal. Yeah. Nilas Sandal. Wearing shoes is Rishus. The Lav Kuli Alma Avidi Desai Misani. Priyas Arosh Nami Lav Kuli Alma Avidi de Megali Rashayo. We're asking a question on Shmuel. It shouldn't be an expression of mourning if he has his head covered, because there are other people that go around with their head covered. When it says Shmuel Tamei, Shmuel says it's not actually so, because the Shmuel called Kera Sheina B'Shas Chima Meina Kera. If someone tears his garment, but it wasn't at the time of the passing, tears it at a later time. Chima means the heat. He didn't tear it at the time of heat. I mean, at the time when it was very the intensity. So then that's not considered tearing. And if he's not wrapped up like the way the Yishmaelim, the Arabs wrap, then it's not considered a real wrap. So according to Shmuel, it has to be wrapped all the way. His face has to be wrapped in a way that's not actually a normal way of walking around in those countries. That's how a mourner is supposed to wrap. So therefore, if he does that on Shabbos, it's not just, oh, I'm wearing a hoodie because some people wear hoodies. This is a real sign of mourning. Machvi Rab Nachman ad Guvi de Dikna. Rab Nachman showed that the wrap has to go until the underneath the mouth. It has to be wrapped all the way up. I don't know how he sees. I guess besides for the eyes. Amar Rab Yaakov, Amar Rab Yechon leishanu al shein menalim beraglav. Av yeshal menalim beraglav menalim mechicham alav. When do we say that being wrapped is a problem? That's only if he's not wearing regular shoes. If he's wearing regular shoes, then everyone can tell he's not mourning because he's wearing he's wearing real shoes. Kol kera sheina b'shaschim mena kera. Actually, let's leave it right there. Let's leave it at kol kera. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Have a good Shabbos.
Okay.